Hey everyone! In today's episode of Tips Appreciated, we have Michelle and Amanda, the sisters behind Eat Shop Love AB on Instagram. Amanda also runs her own marketing agency, A2 Marketing. What we love about them is their focus on local businesses, especially ones that are women-led and LGBTQIA plus led. So stay tuned to get some great tips and advice for your small businesses, including marketing tips and strategies, how and where to use social media, and the importance of getting your story out there. So stay tuned.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining today. It's really exciting to be able to talk more local, but only to have experts around marketing, some great tips, maybe advice. So today we have Michelle and Amanda. Actually, Amanda, do you like to go by Manda or Amanda?
I go by either, so it doesn't bother me. I actually have a funny story. One of our friends calls me Manda so much that when she bought us initial mugs, she bought 2 M's, and then she was like, wait a minute.
You're like, oh, okay.
A?
Yeah.
Oh my God, your name starts with an A.
Nice. Awesome. So why don't you guys give us a bit of an intro with you guys?
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're sisters, and so we run an account together called eatshoplove.ab. And so that was really born of the fact that we had 2 private Instagram accounts, but we loved supporting local, we loved recommending things, and we loved supporting local businesses, whether it's restaurants or shopping. But it didn't have as much impact posting it on our personal accounts because they were private and we couldn't actually really get the message out. Mm-hmm. So we decided to start this public Instagram account so that we can talk about it more with people and kind of spread the influence and be searchable by hashtags so that we could try and support people as much as possible.
Yeah, it really came from me being, the paparazzi mom, right? So I have a million pictures of my children on my Instagram, but I don't want the world to see them. So I have a very private lockdown account. And I just said to him one day, I was like, I really want to, we have all these friends opening these local businesses. We know tons of people that are trying to get out there and do their own thing. And how do we support them? I did, my Facebook is also locked down. So how do we support our friends as marketers and as friends, support these local people? And she said, what if we start an account, we just start, supporting our people, right? Nice. And that's really what it was born of. It just was a thing that we wanted to do. And it was never, it was mostly just to support our friends and have some fun. And we eat a lot and we shop a lot and we love a lot, so I guess that's where the name came from.
Awesome.
Well, that was the next question. How did you come up with the name? And you've answered it, so that's awesome.
Yeah. It's pretty straightforward. We love all those things.
We weren't trying to be too cutesy or anything like that. And then we really wanted to focus on Alberta because at the time, Michelle lives in Edmonton, I lived in Calgary, so we wanted it to cover Alberta wide and then Canadian as well, but that then trying to incorporate Canada into the name got really long. So we were like, this is long enough. We're good.
Alberta, Canada, Canadian.
Yeah.
Nice. And Amanda, you have a marketing company as well, right?
Yeah. So I used to work in media. I worked in media for about 10 to 12 years. And then about 2 years ago, I left and started my own company called A2 Marketing. And so that was solely because it kind of was also born of this, where for a lot of entrepreneurs and small businesses, trying to do marketing, especially agency style, is pretty much it'll break the bank, right? A lot of agencies, not to criticize, but a lot of agencies, because of what they do, they charge between, and the staff they have and the overhead they have, they charge between $200 to $300 an hour for work that they do for you. Most entrepreneurs can't afford that, you're starting out, most of them are looking for a little bit of help, because what I find a lot is that entrepreneurs have a great idea. They have a fantastic idea, product or service, but they need somebody to help with various sides, whether that's accounting and bookkeeping or marketing or distribution or stuff like that. So I wanted to really focus on women-led businesses and LGBTQIA plus businesses, because I just really wanted to focus, I wanted to align my social values with my business values. So that's why I started the business.
Nice. And Michelle, you've been in marketing a while too. You don't have to say where you work, but you've been doing it for a while too.
I've been on marketing for forever. We both have business backgrounds with marketing. It's actually a funny story. My daughter said tonight, what are strong marketers? And I'm like, you're looking at them, honey. They're right. Your Yi and I are right in front of you, girl. And it's funny. I think it's one of the most subjective type of work there is out there. Artists, designers, and a lot of people in our field very much feel the same. Like every single word is scrutinized. I could do a better version of this, right? And I think what's cool about Amanda's business is it's really helping people to sort of hone in on the type of marketing they need, because they might think they need one type of marketing and they're like, I need all the search ads. I need every single search ad that ever existed. And you're like, whoa, buddy, let's look at what we can use your money and how to be more effective with it, right? And that's, I think, one of the biggest things that small businesses really they struggle with, because there's so much marketing out there, right? Do you need that billboard? Do you need all that radio? Do you need, like
do you need Google ads? Do you need digital search? And what it comes down to too is a lot of times with small businesses is they'll come to you and they'll be like, oh, so you do marketing, so you do web design, graphic design, digital ads, well, and they want one person, like they want this amazing unicorn person who's going to do it all for them, which is, I mean, if that existed, kudos to that person, because that person is amazing. But sometimes it's a lot of, what are you, maybe this is the agent side, but like, what's the best bang for your buck? Like, what is actually going to effectively, like, whatever your goal is, whether it's branding your business to get awareness, or if it's literally like traffic through the door, or in this case, like traffic through the virtual website, like, what is your goal and how are you going to get there, as opposed to, I'm going to throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks, and then I'm going to attribute that to marketing, because that happens a lot too.
Oh my God. All the time. All the time. We've been there. We've lived that. Yeah. There's so much just like, we'll see what happens. But when you work for a corporation versus a small business, you have a budget to be available to just toss stuff at the wall, right? And when you've got your hard-earned $2K, you're not going to just like, I'm going to fling this to the world and see what happens, right? That's your hard-earned money. So as a small business, you're like, every penny counts. And the other piece of it is being able to attribute it, like really looking at those metrics and measuring it, right? It's not just like, I'm going to assume this happened because of this.
Nice. Yeah, I can relate a little bit. My parents ran a small business for almost 20 years. And when you say every penny counted, so the business had perishable items and perishable goods. So we were very diligent in picking up inventory so nothing goes to waste and nothing, goes rotten, just because it did count, right, for every penny, because that totally affects not just the let's say the produce, but also your staff and paying your staff, marketing, to your point, right? So one of the big things that we're thinking and talking about today is just around local businesses. What does that mean to you guys when there's a lot of local being thrown out right now? So what does that mean to you guys being focused in that area?
Well, I think what we look at is not just where is the business placed, but also local ownership. So something like we talk about sometimes is like when we first started the account, we focused a lot on like things that were locally owned, but that were small businesses, like one shop, one owner, or like a couple of owners, and it was that one place. But what we've also come to realize is like down the line is, especially during the like pandemic, is that local doesn't just mean like one person owning it or a couple Edmontonians or a couple Calgarians owning it. It also talks about like the local people in this town who have come up with the money to buy into certain franchises. There's been a lot of franchises that have started in Edmonton that people may or may not recognize, but things like, like Udo Nudo, Famoso, Boston Pizza, these are all chains technically. They're all franchises, but they're all owned by Edmontonians. Like they're all owned by local people. Like Michelle makes a great point about this.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things, you hear the word, franchisee or even big box, right? Like that word automatically attaches and you're like, okay, Walmart, right? That's what we're thinking of here. We're talking about the Walmarts, like the big guys. They don't need to worry about business right now, but we're talking more about, these are local guys that own these chains or whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm putting quotations and you can't see them, but but the bigger piece is, especially now, these owners are our local, like these are our people right now. They are all just trying to survive. They are all trying to pay workers that live in Edmonton, in Calgary, in Alberta, in Canada. Everyone is trying to survive the best they can. And I know we have a balance with this too, right? Because the economy isn't great right now. So we do what we can to put more money back into it and support local, whether or not it's, you know, like specifically a one shop or something a little bit just like a local owner in Alberta. But we've also been branching out to places in Canada as well. There's lots of, like tons and tons of small businesses that have really worked hard to make sure that their packaging system, their delivery system works really well. And so we've been able to support a company out of Ontario, like pretty much out of BC, like lots of different places have been awesome about that. Whistle and Flute is actually one of my favorite, and it's because we got matching sushi sweaters, and I feel like I feel like you guys get that, right? Like how can you not buy a sweater that has matching sushi on it?
And it's not just matching sister sushi sweaters, she got them for her kids too. So it's the full family matching.
Nice. It's like
so
Sushi Go.
Yeah, but how did you find this like company then? Like how do you find all these like small businesses?
I don't know if it's because, and I'm sure you guys can attest to this, but being a marketer, it's like you can't look at anything normally. So, so you're always looking for, where did you come from? How did this produce? And what kind of art is behind this? Where is this going? So one of the moms from my daughter's school was actually wearing a ramen version. And she came to school and I was like, I must have this. Please tell me.
Because her and her daughter were matching.
Nice.
So Michelle wanted to match with her daughter.
Obviously.
But a lot of times, you know, like when we're looking, like I think the other thing too is sometimes people, like when we talk about supporting local is like, obviously we're also about supporting like entrepreneurs, but we're also about supporting small businesses, because I think sometimes the misconception people have is that like small businesses only need entrepreneurs, but small businesses are really like businesses that produce revenue that's less than $1 million, right? Like it's a scalability. So it's like they still need our help, right? So when we look at like small businesses, like when we first started, it was straight up just us going to our favorite places, talking about it and being like, do you like it too? And now it's more about like just discovering, like, you know, the really cool thing, I would say, the silver lining that has come out of COVID is that a lot of people have been doing more side hustles out of their homes or trying different adventures, whether that is, you know, someone like Penny Lane Embroidery, who she had a post the other day where she had started her business, just like an Etsy shop. And she said, like, I think in her first year, she sold 20 hoops. And I think this year by Christmas, she had sold 500.
Wow.
So it's an increase, and something that starts as a passion will often take that level, right? So for us, it's about discovering those small people who, or not small people, but those people who are really like trying to achieve something and trying different dreams, whether it's a side hustle dream or like a full-time dream. It's just really fun for us to discover. And a lot of times, you know, it's word of mouth. You know, we like to talk to other people, but also a lot of times, you know, it's, we don't have a huge Instagram account. We're in the 2000s, but we're lucky enough now that we have formed a network of other local supporters. So when we see it on their page, or sometimes they're like, this is not quite for us, but you might like it. It's like a nice feedback loop for us.
Yeah, I think like one of the things that's really stood out, a lot of things we've been reading around social media, attending Tech Table, was the idea of community and the social community. So in terms of social media itself, how important is that to businesses right now? Should that be their primary way to get marketing out, or does it depend, or what's kind of your opinion?
I think it depends.
I feel like we might have very different opinions on this. So you go first.
Okay, I do think it does depend. So my thought on it is very much business based, because for example, if you're an IT focused company, is it as important for you than if you are a bakery or a restaurant to be posting fairly frequently? I think that my bigger thing maybe to step back from that is not just social media, but you have to have a medium to be able to communicate quickly. There's nothing more frustrating from a customer experience to go to someone's website or Instagram page and the information isn't current and you're just like, why? Like that's where everyone's going now. That's when my first thought whenever we want to look something up is I go to go to their web page or I go to their Instagram page, and when the information there doesn't match up over here, I think that's almost more critical. So it's like, what is the medium that your audience is coming from, right? So if everybody's getting their information from social media, which largely happens for most of the local businesses, I would say right now, then that is a priority. But I say a lot of other businesses that are maybe not as, you know, not as restaurant based or as, you know,
B2C.
Yeah, B2C. social media is way less critical in my opinion, right? Do I think you should still have something up to date and you don't post once every 6 months? Then yeah, because why bother start the account if you're never going to ever do anything on it, right?
Yeah, and sorry, just to take a step back for your audience, B2C means business straight to consumer. And some of what Michelle was talking about is business to business. And so the thing about it too is like, it is also a common misconception, I think, for a lot of small businesses, where when they hear social media, they think of, you know, like a 16-year-old girl posting on her Instagram. You know, that's a common misconception. But the thing people need to remember is that there's different levels and different types of social media for every type of business. You know, so for example, if you're going with the IT company that Michelle mentioned, should you be on Facebook and Twitter? No, probably not. But should you be on LinkedIn? 100%. You know, should you be on YouTube, like showing different sides of your business? Yes. The thing people need to remember is that as a business, regardless of what level you're at, whether you're an entrepreneur, small business, medium to large, as consumers, we want to see the human element behind it. We want to see the personality behind it. And that is what social media is really useful for. The other part about social media, though, and digital marketing in general, is that it can be very budget effective. You know, I worked in media for years, and and I'm not shading them because I love local media, you know. However, having said that, is it more costly to do a local TV or radio campaign or email or like direct mail campaign than it would be to buy, you know, a Google AdWords campaign? Yes, it will be. And so it's about like, you know, if you have that $2,000 and that's your whole marketing budget for the year, you don't want to spend it in a 2-week campaign on radio, right? You're going to want to spread it out so that you have a little bit more of a longevity. And so whether that's you approach it with social media, you approach it by partnering with an influencer, or you approach it by doing some like giveaways or something like that. Like everybody has a little bit of a different level, and everybody's comfort level has to be different too, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. You touched on two big things. I think one is around the human elements and the storytelling piece. That's really prevalent in everything that we've looked at and everything we understand too. So what tips do you have for these businesses to sort of come out of their shell a little bit and show the human element, the personality, tell their story? Because
not like the 16-year-old person behind the
yeah,
camera.
exactly.
I mean, don't you want to be a 16-year-old? Like and subscribe, right?
Like and subscribe,
TikTok. I think that one of the big things for any business is copy and writing is it's harder than it looks. And I think people forget that all the time, is that your words, every single word, and we spend a lot of time going back and forth brainstorming on our posts. Like even if one of us writes it out, the other person, we're like, hey, can you just have a quick read? Because the second set of eyes is so critical. And it's about having the same brand voice too, right? Like, so you can't be like super funny, ha 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 ha, all one day and then super serious. Like it doesn't make sense within the context of your brand. And so you have to align that voice. And so one of my tips I would say is just when you first start, you have to decide what kind of voice you're going out with. You can't just be like, I'm gonna blast the world, I'm gonna say a bunch of things, hashtag everything, right? You know, and then that's your whole, that's not even a strategy. That's just, again, flinging things at the wall, right? Like think about what kind of voice you really want and how that voice is going to engage with your audience, right? At the end of the day, we're all just trying to get people to engage with us, tell us a little more. And then that's where that, you know, like deciding on those words and really looking at that copy it's important. It literally is not a 16-year-old girl just like, I'm going to put my every thought out there, right? And that's, we make it look easy, I think, because it's not like thousands and thousands of words, but we put a lot of thought into every word that goes into any of our posts.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the thing about that too is it's I did this interview on another podcast that I do, but it was with the founder for Skip the Dishes, and he said that when they were first starting, he was doing social media off the side of his desk, and he did what he thought would get the most likes. So Skip the Dishes is an app that allows you to order food to your house or to pick up, right? He was posting pictures of cute cats and dogs because he was like, everybody loves cute cats and dogs, which is true. It's 100% true. But that has nothing to do with your business. So he got likes, but they weren't the right audience that he was going for. So the thing about that is like, you can incorporate, like something you said, Edmund, was how can people come out of their shell? And this is something really common with social media, is that people think they have to be those big personalities and they have to attract everybody. No, you don't. You have to be authentic. Yes. For example, most people are surprised to know this, but I'm actually quite introverted. So when I do my posts, it's in the bubble of that. So when I talk about things, it's like, yeah, it's like if I post a meme, it'll be a funny meme of like, how do you entertain an introvert at a party? Snacks, more snacks, sometimes a puppy, and then more snacks, and then let them leave. So it's about knowing who you are and not trying to change that, because if you try and change it or try and portray something else, everybody's BS meter is so high nowadays, they're going to instantly go straight past you, right? So it's about being authentic and also not trying to be something you're not and trying to force it, right?
Yeah.
It's not about like, hey, I got to post every hour, every day, or it's about when you have something relevant and valuable to your audience to say, that's when you post. If that's 3 times a week, because that's what you have the capacity for, go with 3 times a week. But like Michelle said, just don't do it like once every 6 months, because that's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Vic and I have had some good conversations around the influencer culture, influencer tag, name, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I don't know, Vic, you want to ask the question around influencer and see what
So this one's kind of like a tricky one. So what are your intakes about influencers now? Like TikTokers or like people that are posting constantly about their lives and all that stuff. What are your thoughts?
I enjoy some of it, right? And I find myself gravitating towards different accounts, right? And I think that's true of anyone, because I mean this politely, this is not a rude comment at all in any way, but sometimes we need this escapism version, right? So there are influencers that, one of the ones that I follow, I'm not going to name her, but she's got 3 million followers, and she does fashion that I obviously cannot afford, and handbags that are woo, that is her life, and I am feeling her. I'm glad for her. I'm real happy for her. But there's that side of the escapism type of influencer that I very much appreciate. This is her. She works hard at this. This is not she slaps a bag in a picture and she takes it and posts it, right? She works hard for this. So I appreciate that side of it too. But I also land back to what Amanda said about being a real person and just being authentic. I gravitate towards people that aren't just like, my life is literally the most perfect thing that's ever happened, and you guys wish you were part of it, right? Those guys, for me, I have a real tough time. But I understand this is also a business for people too. This is still work, right?
Yeah, but also the best influencers are the ones who have really good content in between their sponsored posts.
Yeah.
They make their money, don't get me wrong, they make their money from sponsored posts, but you have to look at what other brand values are they aligning with. If you're a small business, you have to look at, so for example, say you are a big supporter of LGBTQIA+ people. And you want to align with an influencer, but they are, a hardcore Trump supporter. So, right there, you have a different brand alignment, and that's not going to work for you. So it doesn't matter if they have 20 million followers, that's not going to work for you. Something that you're seeing a lot of the trend with marketing nowadays is companies going towards micro influencers. So this is anybody theoretically with probably about 5,000 and less followers on any given account. And the reason they're doing that is because those people, one, it's not a full-time job for them. So they tend to be a little bit more open to different arrangements. It's not just straight cash. And also because they don't have as large of followings, their followings tend to be a little bit more engaged. Because once you get into the hundreds of thousands, into the millions, they become more about numbers as opposed to being real people. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah, that's a really important point, is that the meaning behind all this. We've talked a lot about the business side of things. So from the consumer's side of things, what does it mean to a small business when you actually do buy local or interact with local, or even
it's a happy dance?
Oh my
yeah.
We've gotten so many packages and deliveries with handwritten notes, and I don't know about you guys, when's the last time you hand wrote a note, right? That takes time. You show that there's so much caring put into that with a handwritten note, a thank you so much. I got an email from one of the thank you so much and thank you for your patience too, because right now, especially in the pandemic, right close to Christmas, I think it was people just getting a little bit worked up, right? Just like, I need my stuff now, right? And again, they're not big box stores. There's not thousands and thousands of employees. Like one of the local girls that we follow and have purchased from Zenline, she's a one-woman show. So there's handwritten notes that come from a lot of these small businesses, and we know that every purchase, you know, like, and you see it on their social too, they say, thank you. So like, thank you every person that has taken this from a business that started like a year ago or whatever it is, and then supported us to this point, right?
And you also have to remember that a lot of these small businesses are at the mercy of Canada Post. They are not the Amazons, they are not the Best Buys, that kind of thing, where they have access to like DHL and, you know, Amazon Prime shipping. They're at the mercy of Canada Post. So, you know, like I know a lot around Christmas time, that was really difficult for a lot of people because like it was overrun. But like these are small businesses where if they had chosen to ship with like a Purolator or a DHL, like you're talking about, they would have narrowed their profits or even gone into losses. So there is actually a stat that the city of Calgary had posted a couple of months ago, and they said that if every household spent $10 a month buying local, the Calgary economy would get a GDP boost of 52 million, and that would generate an additional 823 jobs in our city.
Wow.
That's $10 per household, not even per person, per household in a month. So sometimes people think about it when they talk about shopping local, they think, I have to change everything. They think it's black or white, right? And like, that's not the case. Like, we're not going to sit here and tell you that we never go to Walmart, that we never buy things off Amazon. That's not true.
We're Asian.
We're Asian. We like a deal. So where's the deal? But you know what, on top of that, but you know, it's about where are the small changes in your business or not in your business? Well, actually, you know what, in your business, if you have a business, but where are the small changes that you can make in your household? So for example, if you want to buy produce and you want to go to H&W in Millwoods instead of going to a Safeway or a Save on Foods, you know, or if you want to buy a beer, you pick a local brewery like Sea Change or Situation, you know, it's about little things like that. And, you know, for especially for coffee, there's a million great roasters in the city, right? So it's about small things like that. And you don't have to change everything, but maybe once a month, pick something that's in your monthly budget. And that's $10 per household.
That's one and a half Starbucks, essentially.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
We're
going your 1.5 Starbucks and go to a Crumb instead and get an amazing drink from there. There's so many, I swear, there's so many amazing coffee places in the city that if I went to one every week, I'd be rolling through like how many for like pretty much the whole year. And I think I would just hit them all once.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, there's a lot of pressure. Like, I won't even lie. Like in this, like just past holiday season, hearing everything local and seeing, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to like shift. But then to your point, it doesn't have to be black and white, right? So that was really refreshing to hear because, you know, we did the best where we could, but also in some ways felt guilty that we went to Walmart or bought something from Amazon.
You gotta do what works for you, right? Like the economy is bad. We all got hit hard, but you know, so for example, something we do is we pool our dollars and once a week we pick 2 local restaurants to support, right? And so we like to, the other thing about it is like we like to try and concentrate on different quadrants of the city. So, you know, if we don't, for example, necessarily get out to Spruce Grove that much, it's like we will try on the weekends to try and hit like a couple places in Spruce Grove. So like if we're driving a certain distance, it's like a little, you know, like we're trying. Something we're really passionate about, if people watch the video of this, is like we're obviously all Asian, but like we're really passionate about supporting like the Chinatown businesses right now because a lot of them, one, you know, like you mentioned, Emin, is a lot of them don't have social media, they don't have marketing, so they're not quite capable of keeping up to certain things. You know, they don't have those big, like, you know, a lot of them aren't going to go and skip the dishes. A lot of them aren't going to sign up for those delivery services. So it's like you want to physically go down to Chinatown, order your food, and help them out when you can. And then the flip is, not everybody might know, but also a lot of them are really large spaces because they typically during the summers tend to hold a lot of weddings and events. And, you know, and without those, like you're talking about, you know, 5,000 to 10,000 square foot places that are sitting empty to do takeout now, right?
Yeah,
that's true. Like Chinese New Year, nothing.
Weddings,
right? Like I recently saw an article, and I think about all the bad stigma that's happening with everything that's happened in the last year. On top of being a small business, it's just that is an extremely tough place to be. And I think there's so much opportunity. Like we said before, it shouldn't be a pressure to buy local. It should be a feel good thing. You don't have to change your whole life. You don't have to do all that, but it should feel like something you're just like, this is my way of contributing back. And it doesn't have to be $1 million. I think that's the biggest thing, is because my one friend said, I'm going to buy every single Christmas gift that's local. I'm like, that's awesome. Good for you. And then halfway through, it was like, holy moly, this is very hard. I'm like, yes, it's not easy. Yeah. And it's not easy, but thank you for the effort, right?
Especially, because Michelle has kids, a lot of her friends have kids, and like Emin, you can probably, I'm sorry, Vic, I don't know if you have children.
No.
But yeah. So Vic, you can probably speak to this. No.
You see all my toys in the back? Yeah.
Well, I'm feeling that. Yeah.
But like you can attest is that children are also like, they want what's the cool toy, right? Like they want what their friends have. So sometimes it's not possible to buy local because some local suppliers aren't carrying, the Nerf guns, or I'm not that cool. So I don't know what kids want.
I think she just described my husband.
Yeah.
I was like, me.
Yeah, usually, I mean, like, it's about supporting where you can, right? So it's like, it's like maybe you pick up your wine for your Christmas dinner or your holiday dinners at Sherbrooke instead of Liquor Depot, right? So it's little things like that, little gestures.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like you've mentioned skip the dishes a few times, food delivery, pick up, all of those things. That's been an interesting thing in the news lately too, is that, people have said, don't do skip. But then I've heard a debate that, well, if you do skip, you also support local drivers, people who are doing that. So it's really feels like a bit of a balance is kind of what I'm hearing, what I'm feeling,
it's both for sure.
I mean, it's tough, right? Yeah. Like, because what you're hearing about is usually like a lot of what's been in the news has been the margins, right?
Yeah.
Because restaurants operate on pretty slim margins. So when you're talking about somebody's coming in and doing delivery and takes a 30% cut, like,
tough,
it's tough, right? And then from the flip, you talk to a driver who, who actually doesn't make that much, and then people are not tipping, which is, frankly, jerky.
Yes,
well, I
tip.
think it's jerky.
Yes, please tip.
Yeah,
I just like that word.
No, and that's the thing. It's like, if you can tip. This is somebody this is actually something Michelle and I feel bad about, is like when you do curbside now, is like often I want to tip the person because we live in Alberta. It's cold.
It's cold.
Like I want to give you a tip because you ran something out to my car, and I'm like, but I don't carry cash. So I'm like, how do I give you a tip?
Thank you.
Curbside driver people.
I think it's the same thing that we talked about with the franchise piece of it, that sort of stigma as well, right? It's very similar to this in the sense that you want to buy local, but you can't forget that the people that work for this business, big or not, still work in Alberta. They're still your neighbor. They're still your people. They're here just trying to survive, just trying to make a life. And I would say it's a balance game. Like we do our best to pick up where we can as much as we can, but we're never going to say that we haven't used Skip the Dishes or any of the other guys, right? Like this is not
or DoorDash
or any
but
of them.
Having said that, we do try and do Skip the Dishes over someone like Uber Eats, because Skip the Dishes is actually a Canadian company and worked really hard to keep their head offices in the prairies. And that's something that's also important to us.
Yeah. And that's the other thing that we looked at too, right? Is that as we're supporting businesses, in Canada, it doesn't just have to be sort of in Alberta per se. It's you look at the whole story and the whole picture behind it too, right? So yeah, that's awesome. I think you guys have given some awesome advice, awesome tips, insight as well. Great stat, by the way, $10 a month for every household, right? That was
we did not come up with that stat.
Yeah, that's
no from the city of Calgary. Yes, thank you for sharing that. I should say. Yeah, you're like, no, what's it? So if, let's say, a small business wanted to reach out to you, Amanda, and your company, and to engage you, how would they do that? What would be the best way to reach out to you for advice, tips, your services?
Yeah, 100%. People can follow me on Instagram, or they can go to my website. It's a2mktg.com. And so it's like that on everything, mostly because A2 marketing actually spelled out was taken.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take the vowels out.
Nice.
There's actually a funny story about her company. We had dreams of when we were little girls that we would own a company together that would have some sort of like AO2 or A2 or something along those lines. So I'm very excited that she owns a business now, and in years when she has mucho mula,
Mucho mula.
I'll be in the company too.
Nice. And what about the Eat Shop Love AB? Is the best way just to directly message you guys? Or?
Yeah, just DM us. Yeah, it's eat.shop.love. Yeah, eat.shop. Sometimes I forget. eat.shop.love.ab. And like,
we call it Eat Shop. So much.
We call
like,
it
Eat
Shop.
We call it at home. So sometimes someone's like, the whole name though, I'm like, oh yeah. Eat.shop.
Yeah, I mean, like that's been the really fun thing recently is like we've been talking to a lot of like smaller businesses, local businesses. We just did 2 giveaways. We did one with El Gringo Foods as well as Lulu Cookies, and these are both like smaller businesses. You know, El Gringo's was typically at a lot of farmers markets, and so obviously that hurt them a lot with the pandemic. Lulu Cookies, you know, she's, as far as I know, she's a brand new business that has only been operating for like the last 6 months. So, and home-based, and you know, like that's been really fun for us to discover even more businesses like that. So
So then do you just reach out to them, or like they reach out to you?
They reached out to us in that sense.
That's awesome.
We were really lucky in that sense. We have reached out to other people, not for like the other thing too, I think is sometimes the misconception is that we get gifted a lot of stuff. We don't. Almost everything we review is purchased by us. Unless, and if we have been gifted something, we will say it outright, but it happens very rarely. Like our thing is, we never started this account to get free stuff. We started this to help support businesses.
Nice.
And with the dollars that we were already spending. So
yeah, we were buying it. So why not help promote? It was our friend who started a t-shirt business. And we're like, okay, yeah, I remember. Yeah. He started a t-shirt business. I was like, how do I post this? Where am I gonna put this? No one can see my account. Right?
Yeah, and it's actually funny. It's like, just speaking about like branding and storytelling and stuff like that, is like we, even as marketers, when we first started, we were like, how are we gonna brand this? Like we didn't decide, you know, our brand has changed and like gone through evolutions, and that's something other businesses need to remember too, is that's like just because you make a decision one day or 1 year doesn't mean you have to stick with it.
Married to it. No, but you can't do abrupt changes. I think that's the problem, is that people do very abrupt voice changes, and that's what throws your audience really off, is like, oh, whoa, where did that come from, right? And gradual changes are natural with any sort of marketing, right? You're not going to be married to one concept, and I say that a lot. I'm not married to any. I think marketers are not married to concepts, because we do a concept, we're like, hate it, doing something else, right? Like that's the marketer life thing. Right?
It's the best idea that wins, right? And the best idea is always changes, right? And you know, and this is something I got really used to in radio, because sometimes in radio you would spend, you know, like a full week making a strategy plan for how you're gonna roll something out, and then somebody be like, yeah, but this is better, and you'd be like, toss it out the window, let's do that idea.
Yeah, don't be afraid to change.
No, my God, that's just marketing life, I think. Like in this business, we basically,
that's just life.
Oh my God,
just life in general.
Actually,
yeah, there you go.
Right yeah.
2020, right? 2020. Okay, well, in this sort of next little segment, we have a surprise segment. You're like, ooh. What we like to do actually is I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to show you guys a post, and I want you guys to tell me about it. Okay.
Well, explain the post.
Well, I'll explain the post. I will explain this post.
Oh my God, is it one of ours that we're supposed to criticize it?
No, well,
one of theirs, and they want us to criticize.
No.
No. That one is.
You'll see.
Okay, so I think you can see my screen now.
Oh, it is ours.
It is yours. So this, I think, was your very first post, almost
it
3
is.
years ago. January 1st, 2018.
Oh my God.
Tell us the story.
Wow. Yeah, so this is our friend,
Okay.
YEG & Co. He had started this company.
Nice. And this was at West Edmonton Wall. Save the Whale? Is that
Yeah, the whale
okay.
statue, right?
The whale statue.
Yeah, so this was the local lord that, the mall in town, the big West Edmonton Mall, it was getting rid of a fixture that had been there, and he had started his t-shirt business on it. It wasn't actually to save the whale. He just started doing very like Edmonton-centric things.
Very him sayings.
Yeah, very him sayings. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. We did another sort of interview conversation, and we brought up their first Instagram post, and he was like, I don't remember where that was. So he actually took the time, did some research, and came back to us and was like, okay, this was in Banff. This is why I took it.
Like laughing at us. Oh, we hashtagged it hilarious shirts. Good for us.
I wonder how many people are following that one. That's a real strong one.
See, that's the beauty of starting an account. Nobody's following you yet, so you can make mistakes.
Yeah, totally.
Nobody brings it up except in a podcast that you're recording.
Yeah. Right.
Hey, it took a while for me to like scroll down to like get to that photo.
Thank you.
That's effort. That's a lot of effort.
Well, we're glad it brought back good memories.
It did.
Nice. Okay, well, thank you again for taking the time out. It's also good to see you guys.
I know. So nice to actually see faces, guys.
I know. It's like we haven't like seen each other for like months, except like porch drop-offs.
The joke is you've got Korean boy band hair under that.
Oh yeah, I'm really intrigued in what
this
looks
like. You should do a podcast about his hair sometime. I said it was like Korean boy band for a bit there.
Oh, okay.
I know, because like ever since I met him, he had always shaved his head, and then now he's growing it out.
As long as I've known him, and then one day I did a drop-off, and he came out. I was like, whoa, like
that was
flowy locks there.
Yeah, we did a Zoom with our cousin, and he was braiding his daughter's hair, and we're like, oh my gosh, you're so good at that. And he was like, you want to see why? And he like took down his bun, and he had hair that was longer than ours. Yeah. And we were like, wow, that's COVID style right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Asian sheep right there.
Yeah.
Never cutting it.
That's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah, I started growing it, and then kept growing it, and then the kids eventually voted. And my wife was like, do we keep or do we shave? And then so I had a 2-to-1 vote to keep, because my daughter doesn't like change too much. Then I kept it for another week, and then she's like, keep it, because now she's used to it and doesn't want to change it back. So it's here for now. Anyways,
that's a whole other podcast.
That's a whole other podcast. Yeah, we gotta do a COVID hair podcast or something. And see.
Yeah, I love it. I'd be into it. Nice. Like my husband cut all our hair. Like he cut my hair, he cut my son's hair, and then I cut my daughter's hair just because I was but no,
he did not cut my hair. He did not cut my hair.
You're not touching my hair.
Yeah, like 75%.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Awesome. Well, I think we could edit here and cut.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having us on, guys. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on. This was awesome.
Yeah, this was super fun. Thank you for having us.